My son invited me to dinner to reconcile, but his maid whispered 6 words at the door that exposed a sickening scheme. "Don't open that door, Chris! Run!" Elena, the housekeeper who had known my family for over 20 years, was trembling so hard her fingers dug into my bare forearm like rusted claws. I froze on the brick porch of the estate I had built with my own hands. The very same estate I had signed over to my son as a wedding gift 4 years ago. My son David had texted me a week ago, after 3 long years of brutal, icy silence. "Dad, let's bury the hatchet. Come over for dinner at 7. I was a complete idiot. I brought an expensive bottle of wine and a heart full of pathetic, desperate hope. I genuinely thought my boy finally missed his father, but Elena's voice was a frantic, terrified hiss. "She ripped her own clothes, Chris. She called the cops 20 minutes ago.
They are setting you up."
Before my brain could even process the words, Elena shoved me hard toward the thick line of cedar trees guarding the edge of the lawn. "Hide in the shadows. Watch the driveway. Just run." I scrambled into the dark hedges, the bottle of wine slipping from my fingers and thudding softly into the mulch. My heart hammered against my ribs. I felt ridiculous. A 70-year-old retired senior judge crouching in the dirt like a criminal. But then, the headlights appeared. 2 police cruisers pulled up to the curb, their red and blue lights flashing in absolute silence. No sirens. They had been waiting just around the corner. The front door of my former home flew open. Mia, my daughter-in-law, stumbled out onto the porch. It was a masterclass in fake victimhood. Her hair was a wild, tangled mess. Her expensive silk blouse was violently torn down the shoulder, and she was screaming, pointing frantically at the empty driveway where my car should have been parked. David walked out right behind her. My son, the boy I raised alone after his mother passed away. He stood there with his face pale as paper, nodding along to whatever lie his wife was spitting at the officers. My stomach dropped into a bottomless, icy pit. I spent 35 years sitting on a federal bench. I had looked into the eyes of murderers, cartel bosses, and apex swindlers. I knew exactly what I was looking at. They didn't want a family dinner. They wanted me in handcuffs. If I had walked through that door, Mia would have screamed, David would have tackled me, and the police would have dragged a former judge away in chains for domestic assault. A 60-day media circus, a ruined reputation, and a fast track to a jail cell. Why? Why would my own flesh and blood want to destroy me so completely? I stayed crouched in those bushes for 45 minutes until the police cruisers finally drove away empty-handed. My knees were screaming in agony, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the white-hot rage hardening inside my chest. I crept back to my old sedan, parked 2 blocks away under a broken street lamp, and drove back to my small, cramped apartment downtown. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat in the dark, staring at the wall, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It all came down to cold, hard cash. 4 years ago, when David married Mia, I thought I was being the ultimate father. I handed them the deed to a mortgage-free house worth $3 million. I moved into a modest rental, believing that parents should sacrifice everything to give their children a head start. But greed is a disease that eats people alive from the inside out. Mia was an investment analyst, or at least that's what her fancy resume claimed. In reality, she was a reckless gambler with a taste for high-end luxury and disastrous crypto schemes. A week before that fateful dinner text, David had broken his 3-year silence by showing up at my apartment. He didn't ask how my health was. He didn't ask how I was surviving on my fixed income. He threw a stack of financial documents onto my kitchen table. "Dad, I need you to liquidate your $500,000 retirement fund and sign it over to us as a short-term loan. Mia found an unmissable commercial real estate venture. We need the capital by Friday." I looked through the papers with a practiced legal eye. The venture was a blatant shell company, a desperate attempt to cover up a massive mountain of debt they had accumulated. They owed over $200,000 to private lenders and were facing foreclosure on the very house I gave them. "I can't do this, David," I had told him calmly, looking him dead in the eye. "This fund is all I have left to pay for my medical care and basic living. If I give you this, I have absolutely nothing. You need to sell the estate and downsize." David's face had twisted into an ugly, unrecognizable mask of pure entitlement. "You are selfish. You've always been controlling. You just want to watch us fail." He had slammed the door so hard, the drywall cracked. Sitting in my dark apartment, the sickening reality finally clicked. When I refused to hand over my life savings, I became an obstacle. Mia and David didn't just want the money, they wanted total control. If they could get me arrested for a violent felony, Mia could easily file an emergency petition for adult guardianship. They would paint me as a senile, aggressive old man who was a danger to himself and others. A compliant court would hand over my finances to my only son, and they would warehouse me in some cheap, locked state facility while they drained my remaining $500,000 to pay off their luxury cars and credit cards. A heavy, dark silence filled the room. They thought I was just a lonely, fragile old man fading away in a sad little flat. They forgot who I was. They forgot that I spent 3 decades mastering the chessboard of the American legal system. You do not bring a knife to a war against a man who knows every single judge, prosecutor, and loophole in the state. The next morning, at exactly 8 o'clock, I called Elena. We met at a quiet diner on the outskirts of the city, far away from the neighborhood. Her hands were still shaking as she gripped her coffee mug. "They were talking about it the night before they sent the text, Chris," Elena whispered, her eyes darting toward the diner door. Mia was laughing. She told David that old men are completely predictable. She said you were so desperate for a scrap of affection that you would run over the moment he whistled. She had the whole thing planned out. She even practiced bruising her own arm. "Elena, I need you to listen to me very carefully," I said, my voice steady, dropping into the commanding tone I used to hold over a courtroom. "Are you willing to help me bring them down? I won't let you get hurt, but I need ironclad proof. They treat me like I am invisible, Chris. Like I am just a piece of the furniture," she said, a hard edge appearing in her voice. "Tell me what to do." Texas is a one-party consent state for audio recordings. Since I was technically launching a full investigation into the fraudulent conveyance of my former property, and Elena was acting as my authorized witness, I bought her a tiny, high-grade digital voice recorder that fit perfectly into the lining of her uniform pocket. For the next 5 days, I didn't sit around weeping over my broken family. I went to work. I contacted Marcus, my closest friend, and the most ruthless corporate litigation attorney in the state. We set up a war room in his penthouse office. "This is dirty, Chris," Marcus said, flipping through the financial discovery files his private investigators had pulled up over 48 hours. "Look at this. Mia didn't just lose money. She committed outright bank fraud to secure a second mortgage on your old house. She forged your historical financial statements from when you owned the property to make their income look triple what it actually is." "Can we void the original deed?" I asked, leaning over the desk. "Oh, we can do much more than that," Marcus smiled grimly, tapping a thick manila folder. "Under state law, a gift deed can be completely revoked if it was induced by fraud, undue influence, or if the recipients engage in gross ingratitude or criminal acts against the donor. Attempting to frame you for a felony to seize your estate? That is an absolute slam dunk. But we need Mia on tape confirming the motive." On Thursday afternoon, Elena delivered the missing piece of the puzzle. She emailed me an audio file. I clicked play, and Mia's sharp, arrogant voice filled my apartment speakers. "Stop whining, David!" Mia was snapping at my son. "So the old bastard didn't show up for the dinner trap. Big deal. We just changed the narrative. We tell the bank he promised to sign the retirement fund over as a guarantee. I'll draft the authorization letter myself and copy his signature from the old property transfer documents. He's a lonely, senile old judge. Who is the police going to believe? A respected analyst or a bitter old man who lives in a midtown dump? Once the funds hit our escrow on Monday, we are completely in the clear." David's voice came through muffled and pathetic. "What if he finds out, Mia? What if he goes to the DA?" "With what evidence?" Mia laughed, a chilling, sharp sound. "He has nothing. We have the house. We have the status. He's done." I shut the laptop down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. A cold, absolute certainty settled into my soul. My son had crossed the line from a weak-willed puppet into a full criminal co-conspirator. He was ready to let his wife forge my signature and rob me of my survival fund, just to keep their golden facade from cracking. "Game over," I murmured to the empty room. On Friday morning, Marcus and I walked straight into the white-collar crimes division of the Metropolitan Police Department. I didn't go to the front desk like an ordinary citizen. I walked directly upstairs to the office of Captain Thomas Vance, a man who had brought hundreds of cases before my bench over the last 20 years. "Judge Carroll," Vance said, standing up immediately and shaking my hand. "What brings you out of retirement?" "A criminal conspiracy, Thomas," I said, placing the digital recorder and Marcus's financial audit on his desk, and it's happening inside my own family. Vance sat back, his expression turning grave as he listened to the audio file of Mia bragging about forging my signature to steal my retirement fund. He looked at the bank documents, showing the falsified loan applications. "This is heavy-duty bank fraud, grand larceny, and attempted identity theft," Vance muttered, his jaw tight. "We can get a felony arrest warrant signed by a magistrate within 2 hours." "No," I interrupted, my voice dropping an octave. "Don't rush it. I want the warrant served on Monday morning at exactly 10 o'clock. That is when Mia scheduled the fraudulent wire transfer at her downtown firm. I want them caught in the exact moment of execution." Vance looked at me for a long moment, seeing the absolute determination in my eyes, and nodded. "You got it, Judge. We'll execute at 10 sharp." The weekend was the longest 48 hours of my life. I didn't sleep a single wink. I sat by the window, watching the rain slick the city streets, wondering where I went wrong as a father. I remembered David as a little boy, holding my hand as we walked through the frame of the house we were building. "Is this going to be our castle, Dad?" he had asked. I had told him yes. I had told him that as long as he stayed honest and worked hard, the castle would protect him forever. I guess the castle turned into a cage of his own making. Monday morning arrived cold and crisp. At 9:45, I pulled my sedan up to the curb outside the towering glass high-rise where Mia's investment firm occupied the entire top floor. Marcus was sitting in the passenger seat, a massive stack of civil court documents resting on his lap. "The civil lawsuit has already been electronically filed, Chris," Marcus said, checking his watch. "The moment the handcuffs go on, they are being served with a total revocation of the wedding gift deed. We are freezing every single bank account they possess, placing a lis pendens lien on the estate, and demanding $500,000 in punitive damages for emotional distress and fraud." "Let's go," I said. We walked into the pristine marble-lined lobby just as 3 unmarked police cruisers and an HPD transport van pulled up to the entrance. Captain Vance stepped out, flanked by 4 uniformed officers and 2 federal financial investigators. The security guards in the lobby recognized me immediately and bypassed the turnstiles. We rode the elevator up to the 30th floor in absolute silence. When the doors slid open, the atmosphere inside the firm was buzzing with high-end corporate energy. Young analysts in tailored suits were rushing around with folders. At the end of the hall, inside a massive corner office with panoramic views of the city, Mia was sitting behind a glass desk. David was standing right next to her, clutching a leather briefcase like a security blanket. They were huddled over a tablet, smiling, watching a progress bar for a wire transfer. Captain Vance didn't knock. He shoved the glass door open so hard it rattled against the frame. Mia's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing into an arrogant glare. "What is the meaning of this? You can't just barge into my office. Who do you think you are?" Then, she saw me walking in right behind the officers. The color instantly drained from her perfectly made-up face. "Mia Vance Carroll," Captain Vance announced in a booming voice that echoed across the entire trading floor. "You are under arrest for federal bank fraud, grand larceny, conspiracy, and attempted identity theft. Stand up and put your hands behind your back." "What? No, this is a mistake. David, do something," Mia screamed, slamming her hands onto the desk. 2 uniformed officers stepped forward, grabbed her arms, and forced them behind her back. The sharp, metallic click of the handcuffs unlocking and snapping shut sounded like a gunshot in the quiet office. David looked like he was about to faint. He stumbled backward against the glass window, his chest heaving. Dad, please! What is happening?" I stepped forward, stopping just inches from my son. I looked down at him with a cold, detached pity that cut deeper than any insult. "You thought I was old, David," I said, my voice quiet, completely steady. "You thought because I loved you, I was weak. You thought you could invite your own father to a dinner trap, have him dragged away by the police, and lock him in an asylum just to fund your wretched, greedy lifestyle." "Dad, I didn't know about the forgery, I swear," David sobbed, tears streaming down his face as he looked at the handcuffs on his wife. "You stood on that porch a week ago and watched her lie to the officers while her shirt was torn," I said, the words cutting through the air like a razor. "You knew exactly what she was doing. You chose her money over my life. And today, the bill comes due." Marcus stepped forward and dropped the thick stack of legal documents onto the glass desk right in front of David. "You've been served, David," Marcus said without a shred of warmth. "The deed to the $3 million estate, is officially under court review for total revocation due to criminal fraud and gross ingratitude. Your bank accounts are frozen as of 5 minutes ago. You have exactly 24 hours to vacate the property before the sheriff throws your belongings onto the street. Mia was being dragged out of the office now, screaming obscenities, her heels scraping wildly against the hardwood floor. Every single employee in the firm was staring, recording the meltdown on their phones. Her glittering high society career was extinguished in a matter of seconds. Captain Vance turned to David, pulling out a second pair of handcuffs. "David Carroll, you are being detained as a principal co-conspirator in a felony bank fraud scheme. Let's go." As the officers led my son away, he turned back to look at me one last time. "Dad, please, I'm your son." "My son died 3 years ago when he stopped calling me," I said quietly to the empty office. The aftermath was swift, brutal, and entirely legal. Because Marcus and I had compiled a flawless, airtight mountain of evidence, the district attorney refused to offer a single plea bargain. Mia was sentenced to 7 years in a federal penitentiary for bank fraud and conspiracy. Her career was gone, her reputation was entirely obliterated, and she would spend her 30s eating prison food. David, due to his lack of prior criminal history and his complete breakdown during the investigation, cooperated fully with the prosecution. He avoided hard time, but received 5 years of strict felony probation, a permanent criminal record that ensured he would never work in finance or corporate management again, and a court order to pay $300,000 in restitution. He had to take a job working a grueling 12-hour night shift at a local warehouse just to pay off his legal debts, living in a dingy rooming house on the miserable edge of the city. And as for me, 3 months after the arrests, a senior district judge signed the final order revoking the gift deed completely. The $3 million estate was legally mine again. I didn't sell it, I moved back in. But I didn't live there alone. I promoted Elena to the position of estate manager, tripling her salary and ensuring her daughter's college tuition was entirely paid for out of my retirement fund. She had saved my life, and a judge always pays his debts to the righteous. On a warm evening in late June, I sat on the expansive back porch of my home, a hot cup of black coffee resting in my hand. The garden was perfectly manicured, the air was sweet, and the house stood solid, illuminated by the golden rays of the setting sun. There were no more traps, no more manipulative texts, no more toxic family members scheming in the dark. Just the quiet, beautiful satisfaction of a man who fought for his dignity and won using the weapon he knew best. Absolute, unyielding justice. I took a slow sip of my coffee and looked out over the quiet lawn. I was finally truly home.